Good morning, Mr. Shakir and Dr. Bryant-Williams. How are you all doing today?
Pretty
morning, sir.
good.
Thanks,
Good
doing
morning
well.
to you. Thank you.
Good, good. And welcome to the next edition of TEAL Table Talk. We're going to discuss a few things that I think a lot of personnel should know within the field. And Mr. Shakir, I'll start with you. What are some myths and misconceptions that personnel have within the Army about sexual assault or sexual harassment, sir?
Wow. A great question. I, I, I personally think the myths are more of the lack of understanding what is sexual violence, what people accept, what we have became immune to or acceptable in our behavior. So, in some way, one of the biggest myths is she wanted it or he's gay. Just people are finding out, or she should have known what
Yes,
was
sir.
going to happen. And I disagree, 3,000% if that's a such percentage. But I think those are the main things that we fail to listen to people. We'll make our own decisions of what happened to this person, and I think that harms the healing from the very beginning.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Dr. Bryant-Williams.
Thank you, Sir Perkins. I have to agree. I think additionally, the misconception that there is some type of benefit to coming forward as a victim. We should know that coming forward and reporting yourself as a victim of a crime, especially these types of crimes, is difficult for our clients, and that thinking that there's something that they're gaining out of it, there's some special favor that may be incurred. It's difficult. We've dealt with clients. It's traumatic for that person. And our clients are soldiers and their family members, and having this attached to their personhood, their abilities, is not something that they want. And so the idea that victimization is weaponized to harm someone else's career is just, although it may occur, it's just out of the norm of what we see.
A lot of people have the assumption that the victim, they initiated it or they wanted it, and it kind of silenced the victim from actually speaking out because they would get judged, and it's not so much of the perpetrator who gets blamed for that incident. And I'll kind of switch gears a little bit, kind of moving to Denim Day and how it was founded. Of course, it was an 18-year-old female in Italy in 1992, and she was assaulted by her driver instructor, but the courts, they seen where she had on tight pants, so she must have assisted him on getting sexually assaulted, which was not the case. And people should feel comfortable being in their own skin and wearing what they want to wear. That goes to going to the gym, going out with friends. It really shouldn't matter what you wear. It's not a welcome letter and say, hey, I want to be sexually harassed or sexually assaulted. So, Mr. Shakir, what are some things that you think, just as an organization, we can do to kind of fight that misconception of personnel thinking that?
Wow. That's just again, that's another hard question for me when we say that. But I think the conversation and the ownership. If that was your loved one, your son, your daughter, your mom, how do you see it then?
Yes, sir.
Would you accept this behavior? Would you uh, um, make excuses for people? So again, I say the conversation is very big about doing this because it's I think it's really important to point out behaviors and label what that behavior uh, is. Speaking with Dr. Bryant-Williams some years ago, we talked about the acceptable behavior, and when we have this conversation, it's easier to say like, well, is this wrong or is it acceptable?
Mhm.
And it's so easy to see how wrong behaviors tends to be acceptable. And again, having the conversation out loud, pointing out what it is, to being blunt about what it is, I think helps fight that.
Yes, sir. I agree. Dr. Bryant-Williams.
Oh, thank you, Sir Perkins. I have to agree with you, of course, 100%. And making the victim responsible for the perpetrator's behavior is the easy out, right? Instead of holding people accountable for their own behaviors. And of course, if we're living the Army values and the warrior ethos, then it seems like it should be very easy to respect each other. But we know that it's more nuanced than that. Adding on with the continuum of harm, those behaviors that you will accept, that scale starts to slide and you start moving into the more aggressive and corrosive type of behaviors. But when we look at units and we see that there's sexual harassment, we're not surprised if there's other things in the unit that are being looked over and not being addressed. So like you said, Mr. Shakir, addressing those behaviors when they happen, it also sends a message to those that are going to do the harm that you're responsible for your behavior and it won't be tolerated here. So I think in line with Denim Day, the message that we can always convey is that you're responsible for your behavior, and everyone, as you said, has the right to come to work, exist without the threat of harm. But when those things do occur, the SHARP program is here, and as is the command to address those issues.
Yeah. And if you don't mind, if I can add,
Yes, sir,
because
definitely.
what Dr. Mercedes said is just perfect. When we address those behaviors, it's so key as humans. I think it's so hard to see the evil, the bad that
Yes.
people can do. I'm not saying people are evil, but sometimes some acts
Yes, sir.
that people perform can easily be seen as that. And
Definitely.
it's hard for me to look at, Sergeant Perkins and be like, he would never do it. He's a bad person. I don't want to see that bad in him. We are good people, but how do we encourage that good to outweigh the bad?
Yes, sir. And it's interesting that you made that point. When I went to the Sharp Career course, and one of our instructors, he asked us, everyone, pull out your cell phones. And he was like, put it on selfie mode, self-portrait. And he said, now take a picture of yourself. So everyone did. And of course, we were sitting in the classroom, we were all confused, like, what's going on? He said, this is what a perpetrator looks like. And like you said, Sergeant Perkins, he wouldn't do that. He said, you never know who would do it. He said it can be a sergeant major, it can be a colonel, it can be a teacher, someone that you want to say that you least expect, but you just never know. And Dr. Bryant-Williams, to your other point, having that toxic free environment and having people comfortable enough to come to work. No one wants to be sexually harassed and sexually assaulted, because of course it starts small, but again, perpetrators, they like to, I would say, groom and see how far they can go with their comments and making personnel feel uncomfortable. Because like you said, some people may find it acceptable. I've been saying this joke my entire life. Well, in reality, it's not a joke. It's a bad joke, but someone just has to step up and continue to do the right thing to make that environment feel safe so people are comfortable enough to come to work.
I definitely agree, Sergeant Perkins. I think we do ourselves a disservice when we don't address those issues, because we have young people that come in and then sometimes they're indoctrinated to cultures that are already there, and they start behaving in those manners. And even if that's not who they are, their core value, they think that these behaviors are what's acceptable and this is what it means to be a soldier. And then we lose them, right? Because now they're starting to misbehave or not being indoctrinated into the correct Army culture. And now we may have the victim and a potential or the perpetrator who had the opportunity to grow into a really good soldier and adult, but now that they've not seen the correct way to treat each other, they've fallen into that. So, of course, we have those hardcore perpetrators that are going to be whoever they're going to be, and we want to get rid of them. But we have this opportunity, especially during sexual assault, to address those in the middle that may be influenced by those around them, and that helps by other people standing up and saying, this is not what it means to serve. This is not what it means to be in this unit. So, excellent point.
Great point. Really great point again. and you Sergeant Perkins, you made a point about them being groomed, and the offender are not always grooming the victims; they're grooming those around.
Yes, sir.
So when we can say, well, again, Sergeant Perkins is a nice guy; he would never do anything like that. They're grooming us to accept, well, he was just joking or she was just joking. She didn't mean anything by that. So when it happens, we have to look at ourselves now and say, I was bamboozled. And do I want to say I'm wrong? I want to point the finger at myself and say I was wrong for accepting that? No, I try to make excuses for that behavior.
Yes, and again, making both great points about this topic. And just as a prior drill sergeant, of course, you get new soldiers who come into the military, and they're coming from all over the world. And some of the things that they probably found acceptable is not acceptable in the Army. And we always found it very important to give them classes to let them know the joke that you just made, that's not acceptable. How you treat women, that's not how you do that. You treat them with respect. You treat everyone with respect, because if you don't identify it, I won't say at an early age, but in someone's career, that soldier is going to be someone's first sergeant. That soldier is going to be someone's battalion commander. And like you said, Mr. Shakir, they start grooming other people. Oh, if Colonel Miller think it's okay to say and joke about that, what about the other battalion commanders within his brigade?
Yeah.
And they're going to just foster that toxic environment. So again, both of you are making great points.
And can I make one more point to that?
Yes, sir.
Because, Dr. Bryant-Williams made a great point earlier about, the potential great soldier for that future. Now career has been damaged. And as a former non-commissioned officer myself, I believe in that so much when I said no one is more professional than I am a non-commissioned officer. It's not only my job to be a leader today, but it's my responsibility to build tomorrow's leader.
Definitely.
The next command sergeant major, the next chief of staff of the Army. And that responsibility is not always accepted. So I don't always like to point a finger at a commander to change this. We non-commissioned officers, we junior leaders can instill a change of behavior to say we won't accept this. It starts with that strong foundation of us.
Definitely, sir.
To change it.
Yes, and if you don't have any Dr. Brown ones, I want to add to that as well. Being an NCO, you're that first person that soldier sees when they arrive to their duty station.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been a firm believer of this. If soldiers trust you, they will go to the end of the earth for you, whether it's financially, for their family. And for me, I always judge a leader based off not what they do for me, but what they do for my family. And if I can tell that I trust you to take care of my family and also take care of myself, then we're good to go. And I feel like that's the same way when it comes to sexual harassment and sexual assault. Because a lot of people in the Army, they don't believe the SHARP program works. They always think something gets swept under the rug, or the command or the sergeant major, they're not going to back me or support me through my times. But again, as SHARP professionals, I think we have to continue to do a great job to ensure that people are getting the services that they need and that they are being well taken care of.
Excellent point, Sergeant Perkins. I haven't been a soldier as well, understanding that trust factor and how important that is. And that is an awesome responsibility that you have when someone trusts you. And as you stated, soldiers will go to the end of the earth for you. And so we have to make sure that we are supporting them with the correct information and setting them up for success, all of them, right? So that we can continue to move forward with the mission and take care of each other. So the SHARP program is relatively new, and we're evolving and changing and taking the information that we have and making those types of adjustments that we can, so that every soldier knows that we're available for them in their time of need, and that we're also here to support the commands and the NCO support channel.
Yeah, definitely. Did you all rehearse this? Because y'all catch that.
No, we didn't.
I'm loving it right now. But for me, I don't have any other questions for the both of you. If you all don't have any questions for myself, that will conclude this edition for TEAL Table Talk. And thank you again, Mr. Shakir.
Thank you
for coming, taking time out of your day, and you as well, Dr. Bryant-Williams.
you.
And I hope you all have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you very much.